Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears. Thank you for joining me. In my video today, I will be guest designing for Trinity Stamps, and I'll be creating 3 edge-to-edge shaker cards using 3 brand new 3x4-inch stamp sets from their 4th birthday release called Sweet Summer Celebration. So here's a look at the stamp sets. This one is called So Berry Sweet. There are a couple of strawberries and a sentiment that says you are so berry sweet, and there are some coordinating dies available with that set. This stamp set is called Ap-Peach-iation, and it says I appreciate your kindness with 2 peaches, and there are some coordinating dies available for that one as well. And this one is 1 in a melon. It says you are 1 in a melon with some watermelon and some seeds there, and there are some coordinating dies available with that one as well. So these stamp sets, they're all one piece. So the sentiment is actually connected to the fruit, and you can see that here as I stamp down this first stamp set. I'm just going to stamp this down on some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and this is what I'm going to do for all of my stamps today, using Bristol Smooth cardstock with my Versa Fine Onyx Black ink, because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. So if you are interested in any of the products that I use in my video today, I will have links down in the description box for you for all of these products, so please do take a look at that. And as always, I so appreciate when you guys use my affiliate links, because I do get a small commission on every purchase, and that's at no extra cost to you. Okay, so I will have all of the colors that I'm using for these stamps listed down below as well, in case you want to replicate any of these cards with your own Zig markers. So for the green, I used olive green, mid green, and the blender. And for the red on the strawberry, I used the red and the blender. That's what you see me using here. But in a few minutes, I'm going to come in with my deep red just to add some more darker red, to add some more shadows to these strawberries. I love using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens just for some quick coloring, because they're so easy to use. So here I'm just using the blender to blend that color out, to give it a little bit of a lighter color there in the middle. If you don't have the blender marker, you can always use a water brush or a paintbrush with some water on the end. Just make sure it's not too saturated in water. You can always just dab it on a paper towel to get some of the water off the end. Here's where you see me coming in with the deep red, just adding some darker red just around the leaves at the top of the strawberry to add some shadow. And then I'm using the blender to blend that in with the red color. And then here I'm going to come in and use the black marker for the seeds of my strawberries. And then now I'm going to come in and color the word berry, starting with the dark red. Then I'm going to come in with the red there in the middle, and then I'm going to follow that down with the blender. So I'm creating a little gradient here from dark to medium to light using those 3 markers. So again, starting with the dark red at the top of all of those letters, then coming in with my red marker just to bring that down and fade that out a little bit more. And then I'll come in with my blender, and again, if you don't have the blender, come in with a water brush or a paintbrush and blend that all the way through the bottom. I love when stamps have open letters like this that you can actually color in, because I love using the gradient look so that you have the dark at the top and the light at the bottom. And then here I'm just using my black marker and my blender marker just to give it a black to gray effect. So from dark to light. So coloring the you are so, and then the word sweet in those same colors. So again, starting with the black marker at the top of those letters, and then coming in with the blender to finish through the bottom of those letters. And then for the flower, I'm going to be using my Sugar Almond Pink and my blender. Now when you use the blender or a water brush, just make sure you clean off the tip, either with some water if you're using a water brush, or just take your blender marker and just dab it on a paper towel to clean the tip off when you're going from one color to the next because you don't want to spread your colors. And then here I'm using the same greens that I used in the leaf on the strawberries, and again using the sugar almond pink for the hearts. So here I'm just using my wire cutters to separate the dies, and I'm going to die cut out the strawberries, and there's also a die to cut out the sentiment. Of course, if you did not want to use the dies and just wanted to keep this all connected, you totally can do that. And once I cut out the sentiment, I come back in and I die cut these small hearts. And there are separate dies to cut those out. So I'm going to go ahead and set those die cuts aside. Meanwhile, I'm going to also be bringing in this 4-bar card builder die set from Trinity Stamps. And it has all of these layering dies to make a 4-bar card. A 4-bar card is a smaller card that measures 3.5 by 5 inches. I'm just going to use my wire cutters just to kind of snip this apart to separate these dies. And you can see that there are 3 larger dies. These are some layering dies with some stitched edges. And there's also a tag and some banner dies that you can use for sentiments. So I just want to show you what these dies measure. This large one is about 3.5 by 4 3/4. Then the middle one is 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. And then the smallest one is about 2 7/8 by 4 1/4. And this one is actually a scalloped edge. I will also be bringing in some of the layering dies from this 4-bar envelope builder die set. I just wanted to quickly show you. These are the layering dies. These are just straight up rectangle layering dies for a 4-bar card, but there's also a die in here to make an envelope, and I'm just going to show you really quick. I did do a previous video on how to use this die set, and I will link it up in the right hand corner. And in that video I showed you how to use this die set to make these cards, these Hugs and Kisses cards, as well as the envelope. So if you're interested in seeing that video, do take a look at that. Okay, so here's a piece of white cardstock that I die cut out with a stitched rectangle die. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up this paper with some of the Twisted Citron Distress Oxide ink. I'm starting out dark at the bottom and then just kind of fading it out through the top. And I'm leaving a little bit of the white showing there up at the top. And then I'm going to come in and spritz it with water and then just use a paper towel to bring up some of that ink. And then I'm using some of this Sparkle Sheer Shimmer Spritz Spray, and I'm spraying that on there. And that leaves a nice sparkle and shine to this cardstock. And I am using my heat tool just to dry that before I start making this card. So you can see that beautiful background that I have there. I also took one of the stitched dies, die cut a piece of the black cardstock. You can see the stitching on that. And then here's the stitched die that I used for the background that I just made. And then the red paper, I used the envelope builder die set and used one of the rectangles in there to die cut that red cardstock. So as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be an edge-to-edge shaker card, and I'm just using a piece of acetate from some packaging that I had, and notice that I'm just cutting out some of the acetate. Of course, I don't want to get the writing from the acetate, so I will be cutting around it. And I want to make sure that it's just a little bit larger than my card panel, and the card panel that I'm making into the shaker is going to be the one that I used the Distress Oxide ink to create my own background. So I want to make sure that the top, bottom, left, right edges are a little bit larger so that I can fold it up. Now, the acetate that I'm using is acetate from packaging because it's much thinner than regular acetate. You don't want to use the thick acetate that is normally used for shaker cards because it's too thick and you can't fold it around the edges of your card layer. It's not as easy to do so as if you're using package acetate. So I did put some of the double-sided adhesive tape. It's about a 1/4 inch double-sided tape there at the bottom of that back of the card layer. I did also put it there on the sides and on the top, and I'm just folding over the acetate edges onto my card layer, And I'm just snipping off some of the extra as well because I don't want to have too much bulk there on the back. I just want to have just enough to cover the sides so that the shaker pieces are fully enclosed. And here I'm just snipping off some of the extra cardstock there in the corner, again to eliminate some of the bulk. I am leaving the top of that shaker open because that's how I'm going to get my shaker pieces inside. So when you seal this, just make sure you're sealing only the left, right, and the bottom of your shaker and leave the top open. I am going to be using these strawberry shaped clay embellishments from Trinity Stamps. I'm going to pop those right in my shaker. I'm also going to be bringing in some sequins from my stash just to add a little bit of sparkle in there. So these are just some clear sequins that I had in my stash. Just pop a few of those in there. And once I have all my shaker pieces inside, I'm going to seal the top. So I'm just going to flip this over and remove the double-sided tape and then press down the acetate and just snip off some of that excess acetate. And there's my shaker. Isn't that so easy? So next I'm going to turn that panel over and I'm going to add some of the double-sided adhesive tape to all 4 sides of the back of that layer. I did use my bone folder just to press that down really well, and then I'm going to remove the backing of the tape. I'm also going to put glue on the back and add it to my black cardstock layer. Then that layer is going to be added to the red layer. And then I'm going to add glue to my die cut pieces and add them to the card front. I love how that coordinating die will die cut the words and the fruit separately. So if you wanted to just use the strawberries on a card or maybe create several strawberries and have a whole bunch of strawberries, you can totally do that. And here I'm just adding the hearts to the card front. And next I'm going to create my card base. So for the card base, I cut a piece of white cardstock that measures 5 by 7 inches, and I'm scoring it at 3.5 inches on the 7-inch side. And that's how you create a card base for a 4-bar card. Now I'm just going to add that entire card front to the top and just glue it onto my card base, and my edge-to-edge shaker card for my first card, You Are So Berry Sweet, is finished. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to be using the 1 in a Melon stamp set. Again, I stamped it out onto some Bristol Smooth cardstock using my Versa Fine Onyx Black ink. I started with the peach pink at the bottom, and now I'm coming in with the pink just to extend that pink a little bit. And here I'm just showing you that you can use a water brush with your zig markers instead of the blender marker. This water brush, it actually has water in the barrel, and when I squeeze the red part of that water brush, the water comes out. And because I don't want too much water on the tip of the bristles, I did put it on a piece of paper towel just to soak up some of the water. And using a water brush, it works the same way as a blender. So you can actually then pull that color, the darker color, down into the white area just to blend out that color and create that gradient look. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm starting at the top, getting some of that color on my brush, and then I'm extending it down to the bottom. If you need more color, just add more color with your marker and then come in with your water brush to extend that color down. So I repeat that process with the second watermelon, and then I'm going to come in with my emerald green to color the watermelon rind. And as you can see, I only color the outside green, and then that inside piece I leave white. Next, I'm going to come in with my black marker and color up the seeds. I'm also going to color the seeds that are below the watermelon, but when I die cut this, those seeds I'm actually not even going to be able to die cut. So if you are die cutting the seeds, you don't even need to worry about coloring. So next I'm going to come in with all of those same colors, and I'm going to do that gradient effect with the words on the sentiment. So I start out with the peach pink at the top of the letters, come in with the pink, and then use the water brush to extend that color down. And for the word melon, I'm only using the one color green, which is the emerald green, and then just extending it down with the water brush. So here I'm going to go ahead and die cut the watermelon. And also the words you are, you can see are separate. And then the word melon I'll die cut last. And then the words 1NA, those I actually just will stamp out again and I'll just cut them out. So I die cut a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock with the stitched rectangle die, and I'm adding some cracked pistachio distress oxide ink to the top and bottom, and then I'm adding some of the kitsched flamingo in the center. I'm using my die cuts to place on top just for placement so that I can see if I've covered enough of the center with the kitsched flamingo ink, because I wanted the word melon to have all of that pink ink underneath it. So here's my background. I'm just going to flip this over and add some of the double-sided adhesive tape to the back, all 4 sides. With that card panel still laying face down, I'm putting a piece of acetate underneath it, and then I'll remove the double-sided adhesive tape backing, and I will press the acetate up onto that tape, and I'll just snip off some of the extra bulk that I have on the back of that for the acetate. I don't need so much bulk on the back. Leave the top open, and then I'm going to go ahead and use some shaker pieces. I'm using the One in a Melon clay embellishment mix. These are so cute. They have little watermelons as well as some darker green and lighter green clay circles. I'm also going to be using the black peppercorn embellishment mix. These have they look like little chocolate sprinkles. They have the black sprinkles, and then they have the black circle clay embellishments in there. So I'm going to stick some of these in. I wanted these to kind of look like seeds. I'm actually going to pick out just the sprinkle looking embellishments out of there. I'm not going to use the circles. So again, I wanted this to look like watermelons with seeds as my shaker pieces. So I'm just picking out what I want, sticking it in the pouch. I'm also going to be bringing in the cotton candy, which is this hot pink, and there's some lighter pink colors in there. So I'm going to add some of that. Again, that's some sprinkles with some of the circles and the 2 color pinks. And then I'm going to seal the top once I have everything in there the way that I want it. So again, I'll flip this over and I'll remove the double-sided adhesive backing from that tape, and then I will press down the acetate onto the back. I am folding in the corners a little bit, but I am going to snip off the excess acetate that I don't need, just to remove some of the bulk. Next, I will add the double-sided adhesive tape to all 4 sides of the back of this card layer. And here's where I cut out the words 1NA, and I just stamped it out and cut it out of the white cardstock, but I am adding some of the pink colors to it because I wanted to keep that pink color tone in this card front. So I'm just adding a gradient to these words with the peach pink, pink, and the water brush. And just so that I can have some more flexibility and room when I add this to my card, I am cutting out the individual letters here. So I'm just using my scissors just to fussy cut around these letters just so that I can have more flexibility when placing this on the card. So next I'm going to go ahead and arrange all of my die cut pieces where I want them, and I'll go ahead and glue them down to the acetate. For my cardstock layer that's going underneath this panel, I am going to use a piece of pattern paper from this 9x4 Rainbow Brights paper pad. So I'm going to pull out this pink paper, but I'm going to flip it over. I don't want to use the polka dot side. I'm going to use the diagonal stripes side, and I'm going to use a die from the envelope builder die set to die cut that out. And then I'm going to remove the double-sided adhesive tape that I added to the back of the shaker panel, and I'm going to add some glue, and I'm going to add this piece right to the top of the pattern paper. Next, I'm going to add that to my card base that measures 3.5 by 5 inches. And that will complete that shaker card. So next, I am moving on to the Ap-Peach-iation set, and this is the set of peaches here. So I'm coloring this one up with the orange, and then I added some of the flesh color. So here is the orange, and then I come in with the flesh color and I go over top of that orange and just extend that all the way out. I actually don't use the water brush on those colors. And then I come in with the leaves and I use the olive green and the mid green and the water brush on the leaves. And I use all of these same colors in the sentiment. So for the word peach, I'm coming in with the orange and going over the top of those letters, and then I follow through with all of the rest of the letter with the flesh color. And then for the other words, the AP, and then the rest of the sentiment, the IATE, I come in with the olive green at the top, the mid green, and then the blender. And I do the same thing with the words your kindness for the sentiment at the bottom. So again, with this one, I do use the water brush and just bring that all the way down to the bottom of those letters. I use the blue color for the heart and the water brush to extend that out. And then I'm going to use my wire cutters just to separate the dies and die cut all of these pieces. So there is a die for the peaches, and there's also a die for the Ap-Peach-iate, as well as your kindness. And this die set also includes a die to cut out the words I really. I am going to take a piece of that blue paper from the Rainbow Brights paper pad, and I'm going to die cut it with one of the dies from the 3x4 card builder die set. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. I'm using the polka dot side face down, and I'm adding some double-sided adhesive tape to the striped side. That's going to be the back side. I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing from the double-sided tape. I'm only removing the backing from the two sides and one of the ends. And I'm leaving one of the ends open so I can put the shaker pieces inside. I am using these hearts, which are the Peachy embellishment mix. I'm going to add some of those inside. I'm also going to be using the Soda Pop embellishment mix. The Soda Pop embellishment mix are these orange clay pieces. There's some dark and light orange circles as well as some of the sprinkles. And I'm also going to be adding some sequins from my stash to add a little bit of sparkle. And I am shaking this up a little bit just so I could spread this around before I seal it. I don't want it to be all bulked up at the very bottom. I'm going to turn this over, remove the double-sided adhesive backing, and then press down the acetate on top of that sticky back. And I'm going to snip off some of the excess acetate, and then I'm going to take my double-sided adhesive tape and add tape along all 4 sides of the back of this cardstock layer. I am coming in with my olive green and mid green, and I'm just coloring up the words I really, because I didn't want any white showing on the front of this card front. I wanted it to have all of the same color greens that are on the other words. So I just colored those up and then also used my water brush just to spread that color out. Next, I'm going to add all of these pieces to the front of my shaker card. And for the cardstock layer that's going to go underneath this layer, I die cut a piece of white cardstock using one of the dies from the envelope builder set. And I wanted to match up the colors of the cardstock to the same colors in the peach. So I'm using my zig markers just to color up the edges of the white cardstock. I did start out with the flesh color but realized it was too light. So then I just came in and put the orange color right on top. And I'm just coloring up the edges and then using my water brush just to blend that out just a little bit. And that's going to be the panel that goes underneath the shaker panel. So I'm going to remove the backing of the double-sided adhesive on the back of the shaker panel, and then I'm going to add glue to the rest, add that to the orange panel, and then I'm going to add that to a 4-bar card base. Measures 3.5 by 5 inches. And that's going to complete this shaker card. So once again, here are all 3 edge-to-edge shaker cards that I made today. I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know which card was your favorite. And once again, all supplies for all of these products will be down in the description box of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more card making tutorials. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.